Hello! In this video, I'll show you how to calibrate an interactive floor using Motioncube software and an Orbbec Astra 2 sensor. Before we get to the calibration, I'll show you an example of how the interactive floor works. I'll demonstrate this using the Interactive Showcase app collection, which you can download for free from our store. Let's launch the sample app. Take a look at how it works. You can see that the motion detection is working correctly. Now we'll see how to calibrate it step by step. Before we move on to the calibration, I'll show you what my test setup looks like. As you can see, it's a simple setup with 2 tripods. I won't go into details about it now. You can read more about it in our help center. We'll start the calibration by going to the advanced settings. Here, we enable service mode. The first step is to tell the Motioncube player which configuration it will be operating in. The Motioncube player supports multiple configurations. If we don't set this correctly here, it won't work as expected. If you download the Motioncube Beam version of the player, interactive projection will be enabled by default. We can move on. The depth sensor is set by default here, and we'll leave it that way. We move on and tick the boxes for the interactive floor and motion interaction. That's enough to start with to test this configuration. At this point, the calibration creator, the interactive projection wizard, launches. We can proceed, and that is exactly what I will do. It is worth running it now if the equipment is already connected. If the equipment is not yet connected, we can return to this stage later by launching it directly from the Options panel. Let's move on. Here, we confirm that the floor will be our projection surface. Here we select the frame streaming engine we'll be using. I'm using Orbbec Astra 2, so I'm leaving that engine selected. As I had already calibrated everything previously, I'll reset the options here to their defaults. This way, you'll be able to see the whole process step by step. At this stage, you need to specify the camera's orientation. By default, these options are not enabled. You may see the camera feed just as I do. In my case, the camera is positioned such that I am on the opposite side of the camera's preview image. I need to apply a vertical flip and a horizontal flip here. Now, as you can see, everything is correctly set up and we can move on to the next stage of calibration. At this stage, we check if everything is in order and move on. Here, you need to set the corners of the projection area. I'll reset this so you can see how it's done step by step. Okay, this is what you'll see when you do it for the first time. You can use the manual approach here and set the corners of the projection area by clicking with the mouse one by one on the corners of the preview area displayed by the projector. That's exactly how I do it. It's a fairly quick process. And that's it. I'll now show you how to do this automatically. Let's reset these settings. Done. And with just one button, we can start automatic projection area detection. After a few seconds, the projection area has been detected again in the same places as I did manually earlier. I encourage you to use the automatic options first. If they don't work due to difficult lighting conditions or for other reasons, you can then set it up manually. Let's move on. In this preview, we can also check if everything is in order. As you can see, my foot is where it should be, that is in the corner of the interactive area. Let's move on. At this stage, we can specify the motion detection technique. We have developed several such techniques. They work well in various applications. We have described this in detail in our help center. I encourage you to take a look. By default, for an interactive floor, it is best to start with the default option, which is selected, the wide range option. This option works very well. It is stable and provides a sufficiently good and adequate level of motion detection. It is not very sensitive to changes in lighting conditions. We'll leave it as it is. Later, I'll show you how to view the differences between these detection modes. Let's move on and get to the actual calibration stage, the interaction parameters for working with the depth sensor. The first step is to level the image gradient. You can experiment with this manually, but I'd encourage you to enable automatic tuning. I did that and it's already done, and it works really well. In the next step, you need to set the sensor's distance from the floor. I'll do this automatically as well. Done. It's been measured automatically. We can take a look at these parameters to see what it looks like. If necessary, we can change this later right here. Moving on, we're now testing motion detection. You can see that the motion is detected correctly. We can change the detection method here without the need for recalibration. The first two techniques detect motion across the entire range. As you can see, I'm waving my hand, and this is also detected. However, if we need a technique that detects movement only near the surface, we select the mixed mode technique. Look, movement is detected only near the surface. My hand is not detected. Another interesting method of motion detection is single frame mode, which detects not only movement, but also static objects. As you can see, I'm standing still and I'm detected, and these are objects detected only near the surface. This can be useful in various more specialized applications. You can simply check for yourselves how it works. For example, if we need to block an object flying towards us in a game whilst we are standing still, we can simply enable this technique and it will work well. Let's set the recommended technique for the interactive floor, wide range. It is enabled here. We can apply the recommended value here following the detection stage. In my case, the value 4 works perfectly, so I'll leave it as it is. In the next and final stage of the calibration wizard, we can see which additional tools we recommend for testing the floor setup. Here we have 2 testers, 1 app, and additionally the Showcase app collection. We have now completed the calibration. We disable service mode and run the test application again to ensure it is still working correctly. As you can see, everything is working as expected. I will now show you two additional tools that I frequently use. They can be launched quickly without going through the interactive projection wizard. This is a tool for automatically detecting the interaction area and automatically tuning the depth sensor parameters. It's worth using these two tools whenever something changes in your environment or setup. For example, if something has been repositioned or moved. In that case, it's best to run these two tools straight away. Let's see how I do it. I am running automatic interaction area detection. The checkerboard pattern you have seen before is displayed. As you can see, the detection was successful. Similarly, we can enable automatic camera parameters tuning. You'll need to wait a moment here. The algorithms wait for about 20 seconds for the depth sensor to stabilize its parameters, and only then do they begin tuning. And this stage has also been successful. As you would expect, the applications will now detect movement correctly. Everything has been retuned here. I will now show you the advanced calibration techniques available in service mode. We find the interactive projection settings panel. It's right here. You can see many options here that you have already looked at. These are available in advanced mode and in manual mode. Importantly, from this level we can also enable automatic parameter tuning. This is the area of interaction that has been detected. We can view it in full screen mode. We can also test the motion detection preview here. We can also adjust the motion detection sensitivity here by increasing or decreasing the parameters. It is worth remembering that these parameters should be higher than the noise detection threshold. This value is definitely too low here. Let's leave the value at 4 as the program recommended for this detection mode. You'll find the advanced options further down. Here we can set the image orientation. This is important. We can change the image preview mode here. This is useful for reselecting the corners of the projection area if necessary. But we've already set this correctly and won't be changing it. Let's go back to the depth stream preview and look at the details here. In this panel, we can see all the settings that were configured using the interactive projection wizard. Here, we can change or reselect the working environment. We select the motion detection technique that I showed you earlier. And what can we do here? We can reset all the parameters. They have been reset and reconfigured with a single button press. That's great. We can do it really quickly here. We can even see here what the suggested detection sensitivity is. What's important is the suggested motion detection sensitivity for the mode that's currently selected. When we change the mode and perform an automatic calibration here, as you can see, the suggested value for this mode is 10. Let's set to the default mode, which I recommend for flor's wide range. What you can also see here are the advanced options. Once we've enabled them, we can go through them one by one. Here is the image gradient alignment. You can fine-tune this manually or automatically again. Similarly, you can set the motion detection range here, minimum and maximum. If you've changed anything, don't worry. You can perform automatic fine-tuning here again. At this stage, you can see what the recommended detection sensitivity value is. And here's another interesting tool that allows you to calculate the statistics for the current frame, so you can check this for your own setup. Here you can see that the standard deviation is 9.72. So in the setup I have here, the area approximately 10 centimeters from the floor is one where detection quality is reduced. However, we manage this using additional noise filtering algorithms that we have implemented in Motioncube. These are the advanced options. One interesting option I'd like to show you here is the ability to enable automatic sensor calibration when the software starts up. This option is disabled by default, and it's worth enabling it. This ensures that every time Motioncube starts up, the depth sensor will undergo automatic calibration. All parameters will be recalibrated. It is worth enabling this in situations where you are setting up the station for continuous operation, for operation without your supervision. In that case, it must run stably every time it starts up. Enabling this option will ensure that all parameters are calibrated and that it operates precisely. Okay, we can close this view now. I've already shown you everything here. Finally, I'd like to draw your attention to two more points. When you're testing and checking the advanced options, you need to set up and calibrate the working environment, including the detection sensitivity and the parameters I've shown you, so that the yellow trapezoid remains clear when there's no movement. Look, I'm stepping off the floor. It's clear. There are no additional elements. Only when I step on it is there motion detection. If you notice that there are any objects here and the floor triggers on its own, then you should either raise the detection threshold to a higher value or go into the settings and recalibrate the detection parameters and depth sensor parameters. This is the first important point. The second important point is that you should arrange the surface on which the projector image is displayed in such a way that there is a safety zone of around 3 to 5 centimeters on all sides of the image, free from any edges or additional objects. This is important because the depth sensor can be unreliable at the edges, and this will interfere with the automatic adjustment of settings. If the situation is as shown here, that is, we have such a safety zone, then we can be sure that the interaction area will be correctly defined and the detection parameters will be automatically tuned correctly. If we didn't have this, we would have to adjust it manually. This is extremely important. There is one more important thing that many people forget. I will demonstrate this here as well. The key point And the most important one is that the entire setup must be arranged so that the camera's field of view covers the entire area projected by the projector and with a margin to spare. In other words, the camera must see more than the projector displays. This is extremely important. If this is not done, and the camera cannot see all corners of the displayed image, and there is no extra margin, then your interactive floor environment will not work optimally. Please pay particular attention to this. Okay, I think I've covered everything on this topic. If you have any questions, please write to us.